Hello, I'm Anthony David Hobbs, and this is my second Narnia review. So this is The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. The most famous and most well known of all the Narnia books. Not my personal favourite, but it is very good nonetheless, and it was the first Narnia book I read. Now, I suppose I'd better get this out of the way. Although I recommended reading these Narnia books in the order they're set, there is a slight problem with that. If you read the number, because he wrote the prequel afterwards, if you read that one, and then in this one, there's a bit when the four main children hear the name Aslan for the first time. And C.S. Lewis says, none of them knew who Aslan was, any more than you do. Yes, I do, because I've read the prequel, so I know who he is already, yeah. But apart from that little blooper, overall, yes, all 7 books work if you read them in reading order, yeah. Well, I'll start at the beginning. Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. When I first started reading it, it had a very catchy title. But when I read the first chapter, it was about evacuees during World War II. And my reaction was, oh no, not World War II. I'm fed up with World War II stories. They're so depressing and miserable, very dreary and dull. No, and then suddenly, in the first chapter, Lucy goes, without the slightest warning, goes for a magical wardrobe and teleports into a magical world. It's like, wow, that's amazing. That's super cool, yeah. So I was gripped right from chapter 1, yeah. It was the surprise, not expecting it, that made it so cool, yeah. And okay, here's a picture here, perhaps the most famous image from the Narnia saga. Lucy meets Tumnus, or Mr. Tumnus as she calls him, the faun, yes. And he's got an umbrella covered in snow, and he's carrying what looks like Christmas shopping, yeah. And Tumnus, for one whole chapter, has lots and lots of stuff to say, but then he has little or nothing to say throughout the whole rest of the story and the whole saga. So a very small part, but nevertheless, he's a very memorable character, the mild-mannered faun. And he's like the precursor of what's to come. Yeah, we see lots of other magical creatures after him, yeah. And, okay, Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, very imaginative, very visually stunning. But there are, however, a few little bloopers in the story, a few bits that don't quite make sense. I suppose the most obvious example is Edmund. Yes, it did shock me when he went into the Narnian world and then denied going in it afterwards. I mean, I know he's a bully, he's a meanie, but I would have thought this amazing discovery would change him. You know, the first humans ever to teleport into another world. Or so he thinks they're the first. But anyway, I would have thought a discovery like that would change him, you know, make him look at the big picture. What's more important, this spectacular discovery, or lying about it so you can bully your sister? Well, bullying my sister, that's much more important. So yes, we see that Edmund is a cruel, heartless little boy, a very horrible bully. However, you do sympathise with him a little bit, because when he goes to the witch's house, well, there are reasons for it. Firstly, because he's become addicted to that Turkish delight. He's not addicted anymore when he sees the witch for what she really is, yeah. But, and secondly, he thinks the witch is the Queen of Narnia, the rightful ruler. He's none the wiser. And we're supposed to go, and we, reading the book, are supposed to go, no, Edmund is stupid for believing the White Witch because she's a stranger. Tumnus is a stranger. The beavers are a stranger, but the other children are not regarded as stupid for trusting them. I think the simple answer is you shouldn't trust strangers full stop. Because after you've found out if they're evil or not, it's too late to stop them, yes. So although C.S. Lewis gives all these safety tips, like there's a chapter, well, several chapters where he says, never shut yourself up in a wardrobe. That's a very foolish thing to do. But it's okay to go off with strangers. Yes, they didn't have the awareness of that problem when the book was written. Anyway, here's a picture of Edmund. He sees the witch's castle from a distance and goes inside. It's full of statues, yes, because she turns people into stone. So yes, Edmund finds out the witch is totally evil, but he finds out a bit too late. He realises she never intended to make him a prince. She's good at lying to people. She's good at getting on their good side, yeah. And then, yes, he wants to repent, basically, a sinner willing to repent. And I suppose I have to get this off my chest. Even as a child, not just grown as an adult, no, this back in the day when I was a little boy and read it. What I didn't like was when we're at the end of the story, or almost at the end of the story, this big twist is Aslan dies so that a sin can be forgiven, and then he comes back to life. That's similar to the story of Jesus. But no, it isn't. It is the story of Jesus. It's the exact same story. And it's such a shame. You know, C.S. Lewis, all these original ideas. You know, it's always winter, never Christmas, the White Witch, the talking beavers, Mr. Tumnus, and all these other talking animals. All these original ideas, and he ruins it with this big twist that's just about the most unoriginal twist ever. And it's such a shame, you know, because he does have a very visual imagination, yeah. I mean, he could have written something a bit different, like, oh, I don't know, Aslan risks his life to sin can be forgiven, but not actually die and then come back to life. He could have made it similar to the story of Jesus, but not actually the same. Oh, speaking of similar, yes, as I said, Edmund feels guilty about all the trouble he's caused. He's a sinner that wants to repent. In the epic battle at the end, yes, the big climax, the epic battle at the end, all the good Narnians fighting all the bad Narnians, yes. And Edmund, he destroys the witch's wand, yes, he risks his life to do it, yes. So yes, that works a bit better. That's a sinner wanting to repent and make things right, yeah. And to commemorate this, Aslan makes him a knight. He later becomes a king, so wow, yes, very great honour indeed, yeah. And so yes, there are, overall, 90% of this book is good, but there are a few bits and bobs that are a bit dated or don't make sense. Like, for instance, when Aslan turns the statues back into living creatures again, he's got to get to the place of Baruna. That's several days' walk, right? How does he advise they'll get there? By running. Wait a minute, you're Aslan. You can teleport them all there instantly. Why do you need to run there? And if you did run, how could you get there so quickly? That doesn't make sense, yeah. Another thing that dates it a bit is when it's still winter, the three of the main four children, they're told that by the beavers that we want you to fight this great battle. Okay, you're total strangers, and you want us to fight in this great battle. And in the book, they accept it very well. They go, okay, we'll do it. We'll risk our lives for you. Yes, no questions asked, you know. Whereas in the movie version in 2005, no, they refuse to fight. They go, no, you've made a mistake. We're not heroes. We're evacuees. We were sent to a place to avoid a war. So they are reluctant to do it at first, but then afterwards agree because it's the only way to save Edmund, yeah. And when they see Father Christmas, aka Santa Claus, he gives them presents, weapons, yeah, to fight in the battle, but he says girls are not allowed to fight in a battle, but boys can. Well, that's very dated, yes. Well, they update that in the film version. Girls are allowed to fight as well as boys. So yes, if you update a few bits and bobs, the overall plot still works, yeah. And they become kings and queens at the end. Are they born into a royal family? Are they voted for? No. Aslan decrees it. Because although it's not our world, it's a magical world, it is on very medieval terms. If someone with divine powers decrees you as leader, then that's it. That's it. His word is law, yeah. And J.R.R. Tolkien, who was good friends with C.S. Lewis, he didn't like that Father Christmas was in the book. He said that no, to make you feel like you're in a totally alien world, it should have no connections with our world. Well, that's what makes Narnia a bit different from Lord of the Rings. There are connections between the Narnian world and our world, yeah. Okay, another little blooper if you like. The White Witch lies and pretends to be human because they have this custom that a human has the right to rule Narnia. But Mr. Beaver says that humans have never been to Narnia before. If no humans have ever been there before, why do they have this old custom that a human has the right to rule Narnia? That doesn't make sense. Well, C.S. Lewis corrected this blooper when he wrote the prequel, when it's clearly established that humans have been in Narnia before, yes. So he could get away with that by writing a prequel, yeah. And when Lucy first goes through the magic wardrobe and sees this amazing magical snowy wood and the fawn tumnus, and when she comes back, it's turned into a regular wardrobe. So there's no way she can prove that she's telling the truth. And so you feel the frustration, you know, you're feeling for the character, you know, this determination to get them to believe her, but they won't, you know. And also, when Lucy does meet Tumnus, he tells her part of the history of Narnia, but not all of it. We're not given all of the whole story and the whole backstory in one go, because that would be too much to take in. So it's very well written. C.S. Lewis slowly tells you a bit of the backstory, a bit more of the backstory of Narnia, and then when you're about halfway through the book, then it all makes sense. You understand, yes. So it makes it easier for you to follow the story, easier for it to take it all in, yeah. And when I read the book, yes, I was amazed. This amazing magical adventure, and at the very end, the last bit there, the 4 children come out of the wardrobe, and no time has passed at all. And I don't think C.S. Lewis knew there were going to be sequels when he first wrote this, but it does end with this great line: "That was the end of the adventures of the wardrobe, but it was only really the beginning of the adventures of Narnia." So I love that, the way it ends on a bang, the way it ends on this high note, this feeling of optimism, yeah, that there are possible adventures to come, yeah. So, some stuff to look forward to, yeah, a great glorious future, yeah. So in spite of a few nitpicks, a few bits and bobs that could have been done better, overall, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is very well done indeed, yeah. And it is a shining example of fantasy literature, yeah. So if you haven't read it, you must. If you don't read all the Narnia books, at least read this one, yeah, the most famous one. Okay, thank you for watching. I'm Anthony Hobbs, and I'm never bored.